Did you think the strange happenings in the Song Dynasty Palace were just clumsy maids, or stray cats causing trouble? Did you believe the lofty imperial preceptor was only putting on a show of exorcism to fool the emperor? Step into the eyes of that monster lurking at the bottom of the pond, and see how this seemingly splendid gilded cage suffocates it with despair. You saw with your own eyes a palace maid collapse and die by the imperial garden pond, her body shriveled like a dried corpse. Your master, Lin Lingsu, was urgently summoned to the palace by the emperor, and he told you there was a millennia-old demon jiao beneath the pond, surviving by feeding on the palace's vital yang energy. After the first failed exorcism, Master coughed up black blood. Someone tampered with my talisman water. You spotted the chief eunuch pouring strange powder by the pond at midnight, the water instantly roiling as if boiling. Just as your master staked his life, driving his life-bound artifact straight into the demon jiao's heart, a dark shadow shot out from the eunuch's body. In the instant the artifact shattered, you saw that shadow, clutching the demon's soul, sneer as it surged toward the dim Ziwei Star in the night sky. The palace night was so still you could hear the faint crackle of candle wicks. You huddled in the shadowy corner of the guardhouse, fingers digging into the icy cracks between bricks. The horrifying scene by the pond burned into your memory like a searing brand, scorching you over and over. Just an hour ago, near the northeast edge of Taiye Pond in the Imperial Garden, the new palace maid Lianxiang collapsed like a leaf suddenly drained of all moisture, lifeless and soundless. You had been running an errand for Master Lin Lingsu to fetch a freshly drawn star chart from the Astronomical Bureau, taking a shortcut through the lush garden. Lianxiang, holding a glass lantern, walked lightly toward the pond to draw water. The faint glow of the lantern had barely touched the black jade-like water when the surface rippled unexpectedly with thick, sticky rings. A dense black vapor surged up from the depths, like countless cold, venomous snakes lashing tightly around her ankles. She didn't even have time to scream before it seemed as if an invisible maw swallowed her whole. Her rosy cheeks collapsed in an instant, her full figure withered like rotting wood in the blink of an eye, leaving nothing but skin stretched thin over jagged bones. Her hollow eye sockets stared blankly into the unfathomable night sky. The lantern rolled to the ground, glass shattering. The tiny flame flickered once and died. A suffocating silence, heavy with the stench of mud and decay from the water's depths, pressed down on you. You practically scrambled and crawled your way back to Xuanyuan Temple outside the palace, where Master cultivated in seclusion. Your teeth still chattered uncontrollably as incense coiled in the air. Master Lin Lingsu, clad in plain Taoist robes, sat cross-legged before the statue of the Three Pure Ones, his fingers rolling a string of dark lightning struck jujube beads. He faced away from you, his posture tall and solitary like a pine tree, his body faintly haloed by an almost imperceptible aura. Hearing your tearful, stumbling account, his fingers froze on the beads. The pond, the northeast corner of Taiye Pond. Lin Lingzu's voice was deep and heavy, like an echo from a cold abyss. He slowly turned around, the gentle gaze that usually resembled ancient jade now as sharp as lightning, piercing straight into your terrified eyes. There was no surprise on his face, only a grave certainty, as though the long-awaited moment had finally come. Tonger! He called your childhood name, each word weighing 1,000 pounds. That is no common evil spirit. A creature lurks beneath that pond, feeding on human blood and yang energy. It has been there for 1,000 years. He rose, his wide Taoist robe stirring without wind, faint arcs of lightning flickering from his sleeves. It has awakened, and it's starving. The imperial palace, the emperor's residence, brims with the richest yang energy, its perfect hunting ground. Before his voice fell, a sudden clatter of urgent hooves and clashing armor echoed outside, pounding like a rainstorm. The heavy vermilion temple doors were shoved open violently, slamming against the walls with a deafening crash. A pack of imperial guards from the hall front surged in like wolves, led by Chief Eunuch Chen of the inner service. His usually well-maintained, plump white face was drained of all color, his narrow eyes filled with barely concealed panic. His sharp voice cracked with fear. "Immortal Lin! Immortal Lin! Save us!" By the Emperor's decree, you are urgently summoned to the palace. Something terrible has happened again. Concubine Li, she's shriveled up in Qianghua Pavilion too. Your heart plummeted, your limbs went ice cold. Another one. That monster beneath the pond was hunting unchecked within these 9-tiered walls. The palace gates were tightly shut, the night as thick as ink, like congealed blood. The layered roofs and eaves loomed against the darkness in a jagged silhouette. By day, the palace walls glistened with gold and jade, but now they looked like cold, colossal tombstones. A bone-chilling dampness crept in silently like maggots on rotting flesh, seeping past heavy brocade curtains and into the marrow. The palace staff's faces were pale and lifeless, their steps weak and hollow, eyes vacant, like puppets whose strings had been cut. Even their breaths were thin, close to death. The entire palace felt like a grand, opulent mausoleum, saturated with rot and despair. The northeast corner of Taiye Pond was surrounded by guards, torches crackling, flames casting trembling light on their terrified faces. The water remained deathly still, but beneath that black-jade surface lurked a pulse that chilled the soul. Emperor Zhaoji's face was ashen. Wrapped in thick fur, he sat on his imperial sedan, surrounded by shivering consorts and ministers. He looked at Lin Lingsu as if clutching the last lifeline of a drowning man, his eyes full of fear and desperate hope. "Lin Qing." Zhaoji's voice was hoarse and dry, his lips trembling. "This fiend has already claimed several lives in the palace. Panic grips the people. I entrust you with the fate of this empire and all who live within these walls. You must destroy this demon." Lin Lingsu's expression was as calm as still water. Bowing deeply, he said, "Your Majesty, rest assured, this humble Taoist will give his all." He turned to you, his gaze deep and steady. "Tonga, set up the 7-star demon subduing altar." Suppressing the pounding in your chest, you quickly fetched the ritual items from the vermilion lacquered box. 7 ancient bronze oil lamps were arranged in the pattern of the Big Dipper, their wicks soaked in a secret blend of cinnabar and realgar oil. 7 talismans, written with rooster blood mixed with cinnabar, glowed with a searing spiritual light as they were placed in position. Lin Lingsu stood solemnly before the altar, taking a long, steady breath that seemed to stir invisible winds. The plain wooden sword in his hand was said to be a lightning-struck jujube wood relic passed down from the ancestors. Now faint purple lightning veins glimmered across the blade, humming low. He began stepping the celestial dance, his wide robe snapping in the night wind, chanting an ancient, commanding incantation. Each syllable struck like a hammer on the taut strings of the night in everyone's hearts. "Gods of thunder from the 5 directions, heed my call, celestial sovereign of the 9 heavens. I command all evil to reveal itself. By the law of heaven, come forth." The chant suddenly rose, cracking like thunder. Lin Lingsu thrust the sword toward the lifeless Taiye Pond. Where the blade pointed, lightning was born from the void. Crack, crack! Several blinding purple bolts surged into existence, tearing through the heavy darkness, roaring with a force to annihilate all evil, striking hard into the black-jade waters. Boom! The surface exploded into a massive crater, not with water, but with boiling, pitch-black sludge. A nauseating stench, mixed with ancient silt, rotting weeds, and raw blood, burst out like a tangible shockwave, knocking several nearby guards off their feet, retching violently. From the rift carved by lightning in the black water, an immense, terrifying shape covered in dark green scales heaved upward. Even in that split-second glance, you saw between its abyssal scales countless twisted, agonized, pale human faces. A sound, neither beast nor human, roared up from the depths, pounding like a war drum against every chest, brimming with fury and malice. The entire surface churned violently, like boiling ink, the black liquid shooting into the sky, morphing into countless ghastly hands, clawing madly at the 7-star formation on shore. "Hold the formation!" Lin Lingsu barked sharply. His sword gesture shifted, and the purple lightning on the wooden blade surged, weaving into a net of electricity that barely held back the onrushing black liquid hands. Sparks hissed and screeched where the net clashed with the ghastly hands, the lightning flickering as black vapor kept rising. The lamp array shook violently, the flames of the 7 oil lamps compressed by an invisible force until they were no bigger than beans, flickering on the brink of extinction. You clenched your teeth hard, straining every muscle to hold the array steady, feeling a vicious, icy aura erupting from beneath the ground, ramming into your body as though trying to freeze and tear apart your organs. In that critical deadlock, Lin Lingsu formed a seal with his left hand, pointed the wooden sword in his right at a jade bowl full of clear water in the center of the altar, and shouted, "Summon thunder to cleanse evil! Holy water! Strike! Command!" The water in the bowl suddenly turned crystal clear, radiating a gentle, pure light. Guided by his sword gesture, the water transformed into a shimmering arrow, ready to shoot toward the boiling black core. But just as it left the bowl, "Arg!" Lin Lingzu's body convulsed violently, as if an invisible hammer had slammed into his chest. His face went from red to white, then blue, before he spat out a mouthful of thick, inky black blood with a nauseating stench. Drops splattered across the altar cloth and his plain Taoist robe. The instant the black blood gushed out, the protective aura around him dimmed like a candle in the wind. The wooden sword controlling the water arrow slipped from his grip, clattering to the ground, the purple lightning veins along the blade snuffing out, leaving it dull and lifeless. The water arrow, charged with powerful cleansing energy, lost its force and burst apart mid-air with a splash, falling as ordinary droplets into the boiling black pool, not even stirring a ripple. The black water paused for an instant. Then the massive creature beneath let out an even more violent roar, laced with a mocking edge. The black waves suddenly surged several feet high like a raging tsunami, crashing toward the shore. With Lin Lingsu's power and the electric barrier gone, the 7-star lamp array collapsed like paper. The 7 bronze oil lamps were swept away by the violent waves, oil spilling everywhere, their flames snuffed out in an instant. A massive force hurled you backward, slamming you hard against the freezing palace wall. Stars exploded in your vision as you tasted blood. "Master!" you shouted hoarsely, scrambling to your feet and stumbling toward Lin Lingsu. He was half kneeling on the ground, one hand clutching his chest, his body hunched over in violent coughs. Each cough brought up dark flecks of blood, staining his graying beard. The face that once looked ethereal and immortal was now twisted with shock, pain, and a bone-deep chill. He raised his blood-stained hand, trembling as he pointed at the overturned jade bowl on the altar. A few remaining drops of water in the bottom emitted a faint, almost imperceptible sweet and metallic scent, like rotten honey. "The water! It's poisoned!" His voice rasped like a torn bellows, each word costing him all his strength. His eyes burned with fury and cold realization. Someone switched my talisman water. They tampered with the altar. Such vicious scheming. A chill shot through your body, as though you'd fallen into an icy abyss. This wasn't a natural disaster, it was man-made. Someone in this deep palace had conspired with a demon beneath the pond, plotting to kill your master and doom everyone here. Fear coiled around your heart like a venomous snake, but rising above it was a rage fiercer than the black water itself. Who could it be? Master Lin Lingsu was carefully carried back to a quiet chamber in Xuanyuan Temple by the palace eunuchs. His face was ashen, like gold foil, his breathing faint, as though that mouthful of black blood had drained away half his life. The imperial physicians nervously took his pulse, prescribed a few mild tonics, and fled like pardoned men, clearly helpless against such an unnatural injury. Emperor Zhaoji came to see him personally, offering a few words of comfort. "Lin Qing, rest well and recover." But the terror and unease in his eyes could not be hidden. The atmosphere across the palace grew heavier, like the suffocating silence before a storm. Taiye Pond was momentarily calm, but everyone knew it was only the predator's rest after a feast, waiting for the next hunt. The chamber's windows and doors were tightly shut, leaving only a thin crack for air. The pungent scent of medicine mixed with the faint, cold metallic odor from your master's wounds. You kept vigil by his bed, staring at his tightly closed eyes and furrowed brow, your heart aching as if cut by knives. Anger and suspicion churned in your chest. Whoever tampered with that talisman water had to be someone with access to the altar, someone familiar with your master's rituals, a traitor. One name kept flashing in your mind: Chief Eunuch Chen. He was the one who led the guards to Xuanyuan Temple, urging your master into the palace. He oversaw the arrangement of the altar. He alone had both the access and the chance. Once that thought took root, it spread like poisonous vines. You could no longer remain in that medicine-scented room. The night deepened again. You donned a dark eunuch's uniform, slipping out like a silent shadow, avoiding the patrolling guards, and headed toward that ominous northeast corner of Taiye Pond, guided by the memory of the day. The night in the palace was terrifyingly still. The daytime noise and fear seemed swallowed by the thick darkness, leaving only a crushing, boundless oppression. The heavy footsteps of patrolling guards occasionally echoed along distant palace paths, adding to the eerie emptiness. You crept along the icy palace wall like a lizard, your heartbeat pounding like drums. At last, the guarded area lit by torches came into view. The pond's surface under the bleak moonlight was still a dense, unfathomable black, emitting a faint metallic stench. Hiding behind a clump of dew-drenched banana leaves, you held your breath, eyes fixed on the pond's edge. Time crawled by, and just as doubt began to gnaw at you, a shadowy figure emerged. It was Chief Eunuch Chen. He had shed his conspicuous official uniform, wearing only a plain dark gray eunuch's robe, moving like a wandering ghost. Hunched and nervous, he glanced around constantly. In his hand, he clutched a small bottle, seemingly made of jade. After confirming no one was around, he hurried to the pond, crouched, and yanked the stopper free. Carefully, he poured the contents of the bottle into the black jade water. By the dim moonlight, you clearly saw what spilled out. It was a dark red powder. The instant it touched the water, a sudden change erupted. Glug, 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 the once still pond churned violently as if scalded by red-hot iron. It wasn't natural movement, but countless thick black bubbles surged up and burst, crackling with a sound like sizzling oil, enough to make your scalp crawl. A stench even stronger, fouler, a choking mix of sulfur and blood, exploded outward. Beneath the boiling black water, the massive shape of dark green scales surfaced faintly, clearer and more oppressive than before. Between the scales, the twisted human faces seemed to be silently shrieking in grotesque delight. The entire pond boiled like hell's cauldron, roaring as it devoured the dark red powder with ravenous hunger. As he finished pouring, Chen's face held no fear. Instead, it twisted with fanaticism, awe, and perverse glee. He quickly pocketed the jade bottle and glanced around again. Just as he turned to leave, you could no longer contain the fury surging in your chest. You leapt out from behind the banana leaves, voice low and sharp. "Chin Gong Gong, what are you doing?" Your voice cracked through the silent night like a thunderclap. Chen's body froze as if struck by a binding spell. He turned slowly, that usually obsequious, plump white face now twisted like a demon's mask under the moonlight. His narrow eyes filled with shock and a sudden, deadly gleam. When he saw it was you, a mere Taoist novice following Lin Lingsu, the malice in his eyes quickly drowned out his shock. "Little bastard, you're courting death?" He snarled in a hoarse voice, like a cornered jackal. He suddenly pulled out a gleaming dagger from his robe and lunged at you with ruthless speed, nothing like the pampered eunuch he appeared to be. Your heart skipped a beat. You never imagined he would dare attack within the palace. Instinctively, you twisted to the side to dodge. Your hand shot to your waist. There were the 5 emperor coins your master had given you for protection. In your panic, you had no time to think. You channeled the little energy your master had taught you and flung 3 copper coins straight at Chen Gongong's wrist, holding the dagger. Thud, thud, thud. 3 muffled impacts sounded almost at once. The coins, infused with faint spiritual energy, struck the tendons on Chen's wrist with perfect precision. With a sharp scream of pain, he dropped the dagger, which clattered across the icy stone floor. Clutching his injured wrist, he stared at you in shock and rage, his eyes wide with disbelief. But just as he faltered, something strange happened. The fierce expression on his face froze, as if an invisible hand had gripped his throat. Then, his body began to convulse, uncontrollably. His limbs twisted at unnatural angles, like a puppet yanked by unseen strings. A guttural rasp escaped his throat, half a dying wheeze, half a grotesque, inhuman laugh. Suddenly, thick black smoke, reeking of sulfur and blood, gushed violently from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. The smoke roiled and coiled in the air, rapidly condensing into a vaguely human shape with only 2 blazing eyes, glowing like ghastly green flames. The moment the shadow appeared, the temperature around you plummeted to freezing. Even the churning pond seemed to fall silent for a breath. Keek. A shrill, teeth-grinding, inhuman laugh rang out from the black figure. Its ghost fire eyes glared at you with endless malice and mockery. Then, in a flash, it whirled around and shot like an arrow into the still trembling, stomach-like black waters of Taiye Pond, vanishing without a trace. Without the black smoke, Chen Gong collapsed like a boneless husk, his soul seemingly ripped away. He crumpled on the ground, eyes wide open, pupils glassy, his face frozen in pure terror and confusion. He was dead. The cold corpse lay there, silently testifying to the horror you had just witnessed. A chill ran down your spine, every hair on your body standing on end, your heart pounding in your throat. What the hell was that thing? Possession? Soul snatching? Or part of the demon jiao itself? It had hidden inside Chen Gonggong, using him to feed that strange red powder to the beast. Once discovered, it abandoned the body without hesitation. Your mind spun in chaos. Fear and a crushing sense of danger made it hard to breathe. You had to warn your master now. Fighting the urge to vomit, you didn't spare a glance at Chen Gonggong's corpse. You spun around and bolted towards Xuanyuan Temple. Behind you, the black-jade waters of Taiye Pond, now fed by the red powder, and that eerie shadow grew even darker, thicker, and more oppressive. A terrifying, primordial presence was slowly awakening beneath its depths. You practically slammed open the quiet chamber door, your ragged breaths shattering the silence. Lin Lingsu sat cross-legged on a meditation mat, his face still pale as death. But the moment you entered, his eyes snapped open, flashing with a heavy, all-seeing resolve, a grim determination bordering on tragic heroism. Master, Chen Gonggong, he's dead. Something possessed him. That red powder, that shadow, it went into the pond. You babbled in panic, your chest heaving, voice trembling and sharp with fear as you poured out everything you had seen. Lin Lingsu listened calmly, no trace of surprise on his face, only deep weariness and a knowing, "So it is" expression. He slowly raised a hand to stop your trembling words. "Tonger, don't panic." His voice was low and hoarse, but carried a strange steadiness. "I knew. From the moment the talisman water was switched, I suspected as much. That red powder is blood-soul bait, made from the ashes of vengeful dead mixed with vile toxins, designed to inflame the demon's ferocity. And that shadow is a split-off fragment of the jiao's spirit, a venomous shard of its will, like the tongue of a poisonous snake, meant to bewitch minds and find puppets to procure blood and food for it." He paused to catch his breath, his gaze piercing through the sealed window as though seeing into the dark depths of the pond. It consumed the blood-soul bait, and with that fragment reunited, its power is at its peak, its rage at its fiercest. But that also means it is most greedy, least guarded. He struggled to rise, his body swaying slightly. "Master!" You rushed to support him, your hands meeting his ice-cold skin. His wound was clearly no better. "It's nothing," Lin Lingsu said, pushing you away. His eyes gleamed like blades, burning with a near-mad resolve. "If this beast isn't slain, Bianjing will become a city of ghosts. The innocent will suffer. I cannot wait for it to sleep again." He fixed you with a fiery stare. "Tonger, fetch me the Xuanyuan seal and the jiao-slaying dagger from under my pillow." Your heart lurched. The Xuanyuan seal was your master's life-bound artifact, infused with the pure yang energy he had cultivated for 60 years. And the jiao-slaying dagger, an heirloom of the sect, was said to have once been stained with the blood of ancient evil jiaos. Master was preparing to stake his life. Without hesitation, you retrieved the warm, jade-like crimson Xuanyuan seal from a hidden compartment under the ancestral altar. Then, from under his pillow, you pulled out a long, narrow purple sandalwood case. Opening it, you saw a short dagger of ancient design, jet black with faint, dark golden patterns on its blade, exuding an aura of age-old ferocity. Lin Lingsu took the Xuanyuan seal and the dagger, his fingers brushing the cold blade. His gaze wavered with resolve and a fleeting sorrow, but finally sharpened into clarity. He looked at you and said with grave solemnity, "Tonger, remember every step of the celestial pattern I tread, every incantation I chant. and the final hand seals that unleash the true power of the Xuanyuan seal. If I falter, you will be the last barrier. His eyes held no grief for passing the torch, only the heavy weight of responsibility being entrusted to you. Your throat tightened as you nodded hard, tears blurring your sight, but you kept your gaze locked on every movement of your master. You engraved his steps, his spells, his hand seals into your mind like iron brands. The night deepened. By Taiye Pond, the atmosphere was heavy as iron. Emperor Zhao Ji and his consorts and ministers stood far back behind layers of guards, their faces pale as death. The pond's surface was no longer boiling, but the murderous pressure beneath the black-jade still surged tenfold stronger, like a primeval beast opening its cold vertical pupils in the dark, fixing its prey on shore. Lin Lingsu stood alone amid the ruins of the shattered 7-star lamp array. He had changed into a fresh apricot-yellow Taoist robe, patterned with the 8 trigrams. In his right hand, he held the ancient lightning-struck wooden sword. The Xuanyuan seal hovered 3 inches above his head, radiating a soft yet unyielding crimson light that encased him, barely resisting the oppressive aura emanating from the pond's depths. The jiao slaying dagger was gripped in his left hand, its blade pressed along his forearm. He took no elaborate steps, simply standing still, adjusting his breath. Each inhale and exhale was painfully heavy, pulling at his internal wounds. Yet his aura surged, climbing higher and higher, like a volcano on the verge of eruption. The crimson glow of the Xuanyuan seal above him intensified, its halo almost bursting into flame. Wretched beast. Lin Lingzu's eyes snapped open, twin beams of light shooting forth. His voice boomed like thunder from the 9th heaven, making the pond ripple. Greedy and cruel, slaughtering the innocent. Today, I, Lin Lingsu, wield the true legacy of Xuanyuan to act on heaven's behalf and end you here. Before his voice faded, he thrust the wooden sword toward the pond's center. This time, there was no dazzling thunderbolt. Instead, at the tip of the sword, a tiny, rice grain-sized point of blazing white light flared. Though small, it carried a will strong enough to scorch mountains and annihilate all evil. Break! With Lin Lingzu's sharp cry, that white point detached from the sword tip, gliding silently into the water. There was no earth-shaking explosion, just a hiss, like a red-hot blade slicing through hardened grease. The viscous black water was split apart by that condensed white light, carving open a deep, steaming trench that reached the very bottom, revealing a terrifying sight. A monstrous creature of unimaginable size coiled upon the thick layer of sludge. Its entire body was covered in dark, greenish-black scales, each as large as a millstone, gleaming with metallic coldness. Its massive head resembled the legendary jiao dragon, but was far more grotesque and sinister, crowned not with horns but with jagged bone spikes. The most horrifying were its eyes, not 2, but dozens, maybe hundreds, clustered all over its head and neck. Each one was the size of a fist, glowing a ghastly green, vertical like a snake's, all opening in unison, locking with icy, venomous hunger on Lin Lingsu standing at the shore. It opened its massive jaws. Instead of fangs, countless writhing tentacles, like huge black worms, thrashed madly inside. Each tentacle was covered in tiny green eyes and sucker-like maws. A wave of indescribable malice and suction, strong enough to freeze the soul, swept through the split water channel like an invisible storm, surging straight toward Lin Lingsu. Now, Lin Lingzu's hair and beard bristled, his face flushing an unnatural red. He suddenly spat a mouthful of heart's blood, splattering it all over the jiao-slaying dagger in his left hand. The jet-black blade drank the blood and burst into a blinding dark golden radiance. The ancient patterns on its surface seemed to come alive, humming like a dragon's roar. Above his head, the Xuanyuan seal flared with crimson light, almost engulfing his entire figure. By the true law of Xuanyuan, with the power of my ancestors, slay the jiao, destroy the demon, body and soul. Command. Lin Lingsu's body turned into a burning streak of red-gold light, his stance fierce and unstoppable, like jade shattering with no regrets. He charged along the split water channel, holding the radiant dagger, driving it straight toward the demon jiao's head, targeting that largest core eye, a blood-red abyss. Time seemed to freeze. Psh! A sickening, tearing sound rang out. The dagger pierced through the giant blood-red eye without resistance. The dark golden radiance, sharp as a sword, pierced through instantly. Torrents of destructive, pure yang energy surged through the dagger and into the jiao's body. A woo, a roar of unimaginable agony, fury, and despair erupted, as if billions of vengeful spirits were screaming, mixed with the bellow of molten hellfire. The entire pond exploded like a field of bombs. Geysers of black water, sludge, shattered scales, and foul chunks of innards shot skyward, forming a towering column of nightmarish black water. The whole palace shook violently. In the distance came the crashing of collapsing walls and the terrified, hopeless screams of countless people. Was it over? Your heart leapt to your throat. But in that deafening chaos and the demon's death howl, something suddenly changed. A black shadow, darker and purer than the water, brimming with venomous hatred and cunning, shot out from the wound in the demon's pierced eye, like a snake striking from darkness. The shadow was only the size of a palm, yet crystal clear, a shrunken, hideous dragon-head phantom, its features twisted, its eyes burning with ghostly green flames. It was the core essence of that split-off spirit. Its timing was terrifyingly precise, striking at the exact moment when the dagger hit. The power peaked, and the Xuanyuan seal's light, though at its brightest, was at its most fragile. It shot, like lightning, not at anyone but straight toward the Xuanyuan seal above Lin Lingsu's head. Crack! A sharp, soul-crushing sound split the air. That crimson, jade-like artifact, Lin Lingsu's life-bound treasure, the essence of his decades of cultivation, shattered under the impact of the demon's essence like fragile glass. Crimson light vanished in an instant, scattering into countless dull sparks. Lin Lingsu convulsed as if struck by lightning, his body stiffening, blood gushing from his 7 orifices. This time, it wasn't black blood, but vivid, blinding red. The light in his eyes flickered out like a dying candle. His body, drained of all strength, fell like a puppet with cut strings, still clutching the dagger that now dimmed as swiftly as his life, plummeting toward the foul, churning waters. "Master!" Your eyes burned with pain as you screamed, voice tearing through your throat. You dashed toward the pond with everything you had, but it was too late. The shattered seal's pieces still drifting in the air. The dragon-head essence let out a cruel, venomous laugh. "Kekeke, old Taoist, I'll take your life essence!" It opened its phantom jaws and sucked hard at Lin Lingsu's falling body. A thin yet incomparably pure stream of white energy, carrying Lin Lingsu's life breath, was torn from him. At the same time, from the dying jiao's massive body, a colossal stream of dark green spirit essence was also pulled free, wrapped and dragged by the phantom. Heaven's will Ziwei dimmed. At the last moment before sinking into the foul pond, Lin Lingsu's fingers trembled, pointing north toward the sky, his lips moving, whispering unclear words. The demon's phantom head clutching both Lin Lingsu's life essence and the jiao's massive spirit core, turned into a black-green arc of twisted, ominous light. With a piercing shriek, it shot straight into the sky. It struck at no one, but soared with impossible speed, ripping through the heavy night toward the northern heavens, toward the Ziwei Star, that dim, faltering star above. In a blink, the black-green arc vanished into the northern sky. The pillar of filthy water collapsed, crashing down like the heavens caving in. A downpour of stinking black rain drenched the ruined palace grounds and every frozen soul on the shore. You fell to your knees in the cold mud, staring blankly at the black waters that had swallowed your master. Your eyes drifted toward the northern sky, deep and suffocating, where the Ziwei Star flickered weakly, almost gone. The crashing water, the cries of palace maids, the chaos of guards, all of it sounded distant and muffled, as if through a thick wall of fog. Only the phantom's cruel laugh and Lin Lingsu's final gesture toward the north burned like red-hot brands into your soul. Ziwei had dimmed. Cold black rain streamed down your hair, your cheeks, your neck, reeking of pond sludge and demon blood, sticky like the fluid of some vile creature. The pond's column had fallen, the foul waves beating against the shattered banks, leaving scattered scales, clumps of black mud, and indescribable filth. Lin Lingzu's figure had long since been swallowed by the blackness, gone without a trace, as if he had never existed. The shore fell silent for a breath, then terror erupted among the remaining guards and palace attendants like a plague. Screams, wails, and frenzied flight ripped apart the night's silence. Emperor Zhaoji slumped on his imperial sedan, face ashen, supported by eunuchs trembling like leaves, retreating in panic. He mumbled mindlessly, "The great demon, Lin Immortal, failed. No one looked at the black water that devoured the national preceptor, nor at Chen Gonggong's cold corpse. Utter fear gripped everyone. All they wanted was to flee this cursed place, to escape this dying palace. You remained kneeling in the cold mud, unmoving. Your master's final gesture toward the north, the phantom's mocking laugh as it carried the jiao's essence and his last breath toward Ziwei, replayed endlessly in your mind, an unending nightmare. The chill spread from deep in your bones, sharper than the icy rain. You didn't know how long had passed, but eventually the chaos faded into the distance, leaving only the monotonous sound of raindrops on tiles and water. A figure staggered toward you and stopped at your side. It was General Wang, deputy commander of the Hall Front Guards. His armor was crooked, his face smeared with mud and rain. He looked at you with complicated eyes, then at the dead, still pond. His voice was dry. "Young Taoist, my condolences. Master Lin gave his life for the realm. This place is too dangerous. Leave at once." He reached out to help you up. You jerked your head up, bloodshot eyes locking on him. Your voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping. "Gave his life?" You suddenly pointed at the northern sky, where the Ziwei Star was so dim it was barely visible. Your voice rose, sharp with despair. Look at the heavens! The Ziwei Star!" "The Emperor's star of fate. It's dim. That demon, it didn't escape. It went there. What is it trying to do?" General Wang followed your finger, his face draining of color. He didn't understand astronomy, but that legendary imperial star was now so faint, it was almost invisible in the murky, rain-soaked night. A terrible sense of foreboding seized him. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. You no longer looked at him. You struggled to rise from the mud, staggering to the edge of the pond. The black water had calmed, leaving only its sickening stench. You stared into the dark abyss that had swallowed your master. your nails digging into your palms until blood seeped out, unnoticed. Your master's last, blurred words echoed in your ears. Heaven's will, Ziwei dimmed. Heaven's will? No. You shook your head violently. Something colder, harder than despair, solidified in your chest. This wasn't fate. It was conspiracy. It used Chen Gonggong to poison the talisman water and wound your master, then roused the jiao's fury with the blood soul bait. Finally, at the peak of your master's strike, it abandoned the jiao's body, stole its essence, and even seized your master's last life breath. It shattered the Xuanyuan seal and lunged toward the Ziwei Star. A terrible thought pierced your mind like an ice spike. Was it trying to take its place? Or corrupt the Emperor's star and bring down the Song dynasty? A wave of cold fury consumed you. You slowly raised your hand, wiping the rain and mud from your face. Your hollow eyes stared toward the north, where the black-green arc had vanished and the Ziwei Star flickered weakly. The rain kept falling, cold and cutting. "Master," you murmured, barely audible over the storm. "The path you couldn't finish, I will walk it."